Good day, everyone. I am Maria Cecilia Licuan, and I am here to present to you my research paper entitled Design, Development, and Implementation of the Pediatric Physical Therapy Senior Clinical Internship Telerehabilitation Program of De La Salle Medical and Health Sciences Institute, The Pandemic in Fetus. This presentation is divided into 5 parts. Part 1 will talk about the background. Second is the objectives. Third is the methodology. Fourth is the findings. And fifth is the conclusion. We are currently facing the greatest challenge the world has ever faced. This is the pandemic brought about by COVID-19. It started way back in early 2020. Around March, the Philippines was already called for a lockdown. Because of this, the way that we deliver the educational programs were affected. That includes the clinical internship program. The planning was faced with difficulty. This is because the practice of the virtual internship program, which provides the solution given the restrictions in terms of face-to-face interactions during that time, was not fully established as a practice in the Philippines. This study presents itself with the general objective of determining what pediatric physical therapy senior clinical internship program can be utilized by the institution, particularly the physical therapy department, in order to respond to the needs and requirements during the pandemic period. Specifically, the paper aimed to answer 4 specific questions. Number 1 is what needs can be assessed in the context of delivering the pediatric physical therapy senior clinical internship program during the time of pandemic. Second, what design for the program can be crafted to fulfill the learning outcomes intended for the Pediatric PT Senior Clinical Internship Program. Third, how can the design be developed and realized into a training program platform for Pediatric Physical Therapy Senior Clinical Internship? And lastly, how will the Pediatric Physical Therapy Senior Clinical Internship Training Program be implemented during the pandemic period? The study, in terms of its design, embraced the emergent qualitative document analysis. Given the research design of the study, several documents were reviewed during the initial exploratory phase, the pilot run phase, and the emergent phase of the study. During the initial exploratory phase, collaboration meeting notes and videos were reviewed and analyzed. More so, the dry run videos and notes related to the telerehabilitation planning were also reviewed. During the pilot run phase, client satisfaction survey covering the school year of 2020 to 2021 were reviewed, together with the overall training program evaluation report for the first batch of interns who were covered during the pandemic period. More so, the Pediatric Clinical Training Program Intern Evaluation and Feedback Report were also reviewed, which was done during May of 2020. During the emergent phase of the study, the Client Satisfaction Survey and the monthly Pediatric Clinical Training Program Intern Evaluation and Feedback Reports, which was done last September, was also covered in the study. Considering the documents reviewed, 14 faculty members were considered as participants or contributors to the document during the initial exploratory phase. 9 pediatric client caregivers were considered as contributors to the document, and 56 interns from batch 2021 were considered contributors to the document for the pilot run phase, while 42 pediatric client caregivers and 15 interns from August-September batch of 2022 were considered as contributors to the documents reviewed during the emergent phase. The data gathered in the study are qualitative in nature, which were then interpreted into meaningful patterns and then translated into themes that were then analyzed. Considering the findings of the study, needs were identified and analyzed, and SWOT analysis was used. Considering the findings related to specific objective number 2, 3, and 4, which seeks to ask about the design, development, and implementation, the study identified 3 major themes. The first is the flexible and safe training program compliant to standards, virtual platforms that deliver the intended learning outcomes, and third, instructional processes that embrace relevant and appropriate pedagogy for the internship program. And when we consider relevant and appropriate pedagogy, it talks about e-pedagogies that can help in the implementation of the actual training. And in this case, the study is theoretically supported by that of Mace and De Freitas and Connell in 2010 and 2004 respectively, which considers associative focus on individual learning through association and reinforcement, constructivist building on prior knowledge and task-oriented activities, situative learning through social interaction and learning in context, as well as connectivist learning in a networked environment. In terms of the design, the program was divided into 3 phases. Phase 1 is the preparatory training phase. Phase 2, service delivery and enhancement phase. And Phase 3, the post-training or the culmination phase. The training model was also declared in the study. This model considers the actual training program outcomes desired by the DLS MHSI CRS PT department for its interns, as well as the consideration of the client management process in pediatrics. Moreover, as far as the development is concerned, it was imperative that a pediatric physical therapy training manual be developed. And in this case, the manual considers all the performance indicators and competency areas based on the outcomes desired by the institution to its PT interns. Policies, standards, and guidelines were also considered in the development of the program. In the implementation of the program, the organizational structure needs to be clearly presented. And in this case, there are 2 arms that are needed in order for the training program to operate. And that is the operations and patients management arm and the interns performance and evaluation arm. As far as the implementation of the training program, considering virtual platforms, the Senior Clinical Pediatric Program considers the Microsoft Teams as one of its platforms. Second is the use of social media, particularly Facebook and Messenger, and also the use of Google Meetings. The actual training activities and instructional design for the program was also crucial. Here, presented in your screen, it is evident that there are synchronous and asynchronous sessions in the delivery of the actual training program. I mentioned a while ago that the program is divided into 3 phases as far as implementation is concerned. In a nutshell, Phase 1 talks about the preparatory training. Here, different requirements including the profiling of the interns and the self-evaluation of the interns are considered. More so, during the preparatory phase, the interns are actually warmed up through lectures and actual video demonstrations and evidence-based practice research related to pediatrics. They are also trained to utilize documents using templates prepared for the actual training. Moving from phase 1 to phase 2 will actually deal with the actual telerehabilitation process. Here, it is divided into the intake phase and the client management phase. In the intake phase, it includes the inquiry, the booking, and the physiatrist consultation and the eligibility assessment and the triaging to pediatric cluster. Once triaged to the pediatric cluster, phase 2 of the telerehabilitation process will set in, which includes the booking for history and screen, assessment, plan of care and intervention, progress reporting, follow-up consultation, and possible discharge to the progress. Presented in front of you is how the actual telerehabilitation session is conducted, wherein there is a side-by-side window available for monitoring and implementation of the actual session. Moving from phase 2 to phase 3 will talk about the post-training or the culmination phase. Here, the interns are required to answer different evaluation forms together with the faculty. So the faculty evaluates the performance of the interns using different rubrics related to behavior, related to clinical competency, the utilization of evidence-based practice, and the case presentation rubric. In phase 3 as well, interns are required to accomplish different forms of evaluations, which considers the evaluation of the training program, their peers, their own self, and also their nomination for the best intern. They are also required to reflect on the learnings that they have acquired during the actual rotation. The interns are actually evaluated in terms of their performance using 4 major criteria. 3 rubrics are generally used for this purpose, and there are several requirements to fulfill also the completion of the actual training program. At the end of their clinical training, interns who have met the criteria are issued a certificate of completion and an individual performance report sent through their chat box. This basically ends my presentation. Thank you very much, and God bless us all.